Imagine waking up to the biggest IPO in history, one that instantly reshapes fortunes, markets, and thousands of ordinary employees' lives. Behind this imagined financial earthquake stands a company that redefined rockets, satellites, and the economics of modern spaceflight. Some employees could see decades of stock options transformed overnight into life-changing wealth beyond their wildest expectations. But the real story isn't the valuation, it's how one company's rise could permanently rewrite wealth creation. Let's begin. In the early 2000s, few believed a private company could compete with governments in the race to space. In 2002, Elon Musk founded SpaceX with one ambitious goal: making humanity a multi-planetary species through dramatically cheaper spaceflight. The company's first headquarters looked more like a determined startup than the future leader of the global space industry. The first Falcon 1 launches failed, pushing the young company dangerously close to running out of both funding and hope. Many believed the company would collapse before ever reaching orbit, but its leadership refused to abandon the mission. Everything changed when Falcon 1 finally reached orbit, proving a private company could successfully launch into space. Soon afterward, NASA contracts provided both credibility and capital, allowing SpaceX to accelerate development at unprecedented speed. Factories expanded, launch frequency increased, and thousands of engineers joined one of the world's most ambitious technology companies. President Gwynne Shotwell helped transform ambitious engineering into one of the world's most efficient commercial space businesses. Reusable rockets dramatically lowered launch costs, changing an industry that had operated almost the same way for decades. Launch after launch, SpaceX rapidly became the world's busiest orbital launch provider, reshaping the economics of access to space. Then came Starlink, a rapidly growing satellite network, creating an entirely new source of recurring revenue beyond rocket launches. Private investors competed aggressively for limited shares as each funding round pushed SpaceX's valuation dramatically higher. Unlike most technology giants, SpaceX deliberately stayed private, avoiding quarterly market pressure while focusing on long-term innovation. And that private ownership created something extraordinary, an employee stock story, unlike almost anything modern corporate history had ever witnessed. SpaceX's greatest hidden asset wasn't just its rockets. It was the ownership quietly accumulating inside the company itself. Rather than relying only on salaries, long-term ownership became one of the company's most powerful recruiting advantages. Many employees received stock options, giving them the opportunity to purchase company shares at predetermined prices. Those who joined early often received options when the company's valuation was only a tiny fraction of its later value. But ownership wasn't immediate. Most equity vested gradually, encouraging employees to stay and help build the company. Every successful launch increased confidence that those shares might someday become far more valuable than anyone initially imagined. As private investors paid increasingly higher prices, existing employee shares quietly appreciated alongside every major funding round. Unlike public stocks, private shares couldn't simply be sold on an exchange whenever employees wanted immediate cash. Instead, SpaceX periodically conducted tender offers, allowing some employees to sell portions of their shares to approved investors. For many employees, these events provided their first opportunity to convert years of paper wealth into real money. Strong leadership and operational discipline helped convince investors that SpaceX could continue growing well beyond traditional aerospace companies. Public markets reward daily trading. Private ownership often rewards patience measured in years instead of hours. Each successful mission, commercial contract, and Starlink expansion increased investor confidence and steadily pushed the company's valuation higher. Now imagine that entire ownership structure suddenly becoming fully tradable through one historic public market debut. That's where our hypothetical scenario begins, a future SpaceX IPO valued at an astonishing $2 trillion. Overnight, thousands of employees would watch years of accumulated ownership transform into unprecedented personal wealth on paper. The numbers become almost unbelievable, but they're driven by mathematics, ownership percentages, and valuation, rather than pure imagination. Next, we'll calculate exactly how a hypothetical $2 trillion valuation could reshape the financial futures of thousands of SpaceX employees. Now imagine a future where SpaceX finally goes public at a $2 trillion valuation. What happens next could change everything. An initial public offering, or IPO, turns privately held shares into publicly traded stock. For the first time, investors around the world can buy ownership in the company. Many long-term SpaceX employees already own company equity. An IPO wouldn't create new wealth overnight. It would simply give those shares a public market value. Here's a simple example. This is not based on any real employee. Imagine someone owns 10,000 fully vested SpaceX shares before the IPO. The value of each share depends on the total number of shares outstanding, not just the company's headline valuation. For illustration, assume the IPO values each share at $1,000. In that case, 10,000 shares would be worth about $10 million before taxes and transaction costs. For some families, years of hard work and patience could become financial independence through ownership instead of salary alone. Of course, not every employee would receive the same result. Equity awards vary based on role, seniority, hiring date, and compensation. Founders and early investors usually own much larger stakes, although exact ownership changes over time. After lockup periods expire, shareholders can decide whether to keep holding their stock or sell part of it. Some may diversify their investments. Others could buy homes, support charities, or start new businesses. The impact would reach far beyond employees. Communities around major SpaceX facilities could see more investment, stronger local businesses, and new economic growth. Investors across the world would study every detail, making it one of the largest IPOs in financial history. But an IPO of this scale wouldn't just create wealth. It could reshape global markets, venture capital, and the future of innovation. The biggest question isn't whether investors would want SpaceX stock. It's whether a $2 trillion valuation can truly be justified. Next, we'll examine whether SpaceX's real businesses and future opportunities could support a valuation of that magnitude. A $2 trillion valuation sounds extraordinary. But could SpaceX's real businesses eventually support a number that large? Unlike traditional aerospace companies, SpaceX combines several high-growth businesses under one company, each serving a different global market. Launch services remain the foundation. SpaceX delivers commercial satellites, government payloads, scientific missions, and astronauts into orbit with unmatched launch frequency. Its reusable rockets have dramatically reduced launch costs, making spaceflight more affordable, while strengthening the company's competitive advantage. Then there's Starlink. Its satellite internet network connects homes, businesses, ships, aircraft, and remote communities across the world. Unlike rocket launches, internet subscriptions generate recurring revenue, creating steady cash flow that investors often value highly. As Starlink expands, its potential market could reach hundreds of millions of users. Another major opportunity is Starship. This next-generation launch system is designed for larger payloads and future missions to the Moon, Mars, and beyond. If successful, Starship could unlock entirely new commercial industries. SpaceX also benefits from long-term government and national security contracts, providing stable revenue alongside commercial customers. Because of this unique combination of businesses, many investors believe SpaceX could eventually be valued more like a technology company than a traditional aerospace manufacturer. Supporters argue that launch services, satellite communications, and future space infrastructure could justify an extraordinary valuation. Skeptics point to execution risk, massive capital requirements, growing competition, and uncertainty about future profits. The truth will likely fall somewhere between those views. Whatever the final valuation, the people building these rockets remain the company's greatest strength. And if a SpaceX IPO ever becomes reality, its impact could extend far beyond the company itself, influencing investors, startups, financial markets, and the future of global innovation. Next, we'll explore how a SpaceX IPO could reshape Silicon Valley, Wall Street, and the global economy. A SpaceX IPO wouldn't affect just one company. Its impact could spread across financial markets, technology, and entrepreneurship around the world. From the first day of trading, pension funds, mutual funds, exchange-traded funds, and sovereign wealth funds would likely compete for shares. Many large investment firms could rebalance their portfolios, selling existing holdings to make room for one of the biggest public offerings in history. For entrepreneurs, the message would be powerful. Long-term innovation and employee ownership could once again prove that building a private company over many years can create extraordinary wealth. History shows that successful technology companies often produce the next generation of founders. Former employees frequently reinvest their experience, capital, and ambition into entirely new businesses. The benefits could extend beyond SpaceX itself. Suppliers providing advanced electronics, precision components, software, and specialized materials could see growing demand as the company expands. Communities surrounding major SpaceX facilities might experience stronger local economies, higher incomes, increased business investment, and rising demand for housing. At the same time, rapid economic growth can bring new challenges, including higher housing costs and greater inequality. A successful IPO could also encourage venture capital firms to invest more aggressively in ambitious engineering and space technology startups. Retail investors would follow every announcement, hoping to participate in one of the decade's most anticipated stock offerings. If SpaceX were eventually added to major stock indexes, passive investment funds would also become significant long-term shareholders. Because global financial markets are deeply connected, the effects could reach far beyond the United States, influencing investors and businesses around the world. In this scenario, the IPO becomes more than a financial event. It becomes a catalyst for another generation of technological innovation. But public markets bring constant scrutiny. Every decision, every quarter, and every result would be closely watched. Next, we'll explore what SpaceX could gain and what it might sacrifice by becoming one of the world's largest publicly traded companies. Going public isn't just about raising money. It changes how a company operates every single day. A successful IPO could give SpaceX access to enormous amounts of capital to build new factories, expand satellite production, develop Starship, and invest in future technologies. More funding could accelerate manufacturing, launch infrastructure, research, and engineering on a much larger scale. But public companies face constant scrutiny. Investors and analysts closely watch quarterly earnings, subscriber growth, profitability, and future guidance. That creates a challenge for SpaceX. Space exploration often takes years of testing and development, while financial markets sometimes focus on results measured over a single quarter. For years, SpaceX leadership has prioritized long-term goals, even when those projects required heavy investment before producing meaningful returns. A public company must also disclose detailed financial information. That gives investors greater transparency, but can also reveal valuable insights to competitors. Public ownership brings another major change. Employees gain greater flexibility to sell shares after trading restrictions expire, while shareholders gain more influence over governance and major business decisions. Supporters believe public funding could accelerate innovation, strengthen SpaceX's competitive position, and expand its leadership across multiple industries. Critics argue that pressure from Wall Street could encourage short-term thinking instead of bold engineering projects that may take years to succeed. Private companies often plan for decades. Public markets sometimes judge performance every few months. Whether SpaceX remains private or eventually goes public will depend on long-term strategy, not simply on achieving the highest valuation. Whatever path it chooses, the company's future will likely shape aerospace, technology, and global investment for years to come. The question is no longer whether SpaceX changed the industry. It's how far that transformation can ultimately reach. Next, we'll explore what this hypothetical future could mean for investors, employees, and humanity's journey beyond Earth. Behind every headline and every valuation are real people whose careers, families, and futures could be transformed by a historic moment like this. Employees who spent years designing, building, and launching rockets could finally see the full public value of the equity they earned over time. Some might invest in new companies, helping fund the next generation of innovators with the experience they gained at SpaceX. History shows that new wealth often flows back into innovation, education, philanthropy, and long-term economic growth. But public markets are never predictable. Even the world's strongest companies experience periods of volatility, uncertainty, and falling share prices. That's why financial experts often recommend diversification instead of keeping most personal wealth in a single company. For SpaceX, financial success has always supported a much larger mission. Profitable businesses can provide the resources needed to build more advanced spacecraft, expand infrastructure, and develop technologies for deep space exploration. The long-term vision of making humanity a multiplanetary species continues to shape the company's direction, even though enormous engineering challenges still remain. In the end, investors judge execution. Bold ideas matter, but consistent results matter even more. Building one of the world's most ambitious engineering companies requires both visionary leadership and relentless operational discipline. Competition also drives progress, encouraging faster innovation, lower costs, and better technology across the entire aerospace industry. Behind every successful launch are thousands of engineers, technicians, and specialists whose work often spans many years before a rocket ever leaves the ground. If a $2 trillion SpaceX IPO ever became reality, it would represent decades of innovation rather than overnight success. The company's greatest legacy may not be the wealth it creates, but the future it helps humanity build. In our final chapter, we'll separate today's reality from tomorrow's possibilities and ask whether this extraordinary future could ever become real. Today, SpaceX remains a private company, continuing to build rockets, satellites, and spacecraft at an extraordinary pace. Its leadership remains focused on ambitious goals that reach far beyond financial markets and quarterly earnings. The $2 trillion IPO explored throughout this documentary is purely a hypothetical scenario. It is not a real event or a confirmed future outcome. Even so, SpaceX has already transformed commercial spaceflight in ways that once seemed impossible. Behind every launch stand, thousands of engineers, technicians, scientists, and specialists whose dedication has built one of the greatest engineering success stories of our time. Whether the company stays private or eventually goes public, employee ownership shows how long-term commitment can reward the people helping build the future. History has shown that breakthrough technologies often reshape entire industries, creating opportunities far beyond the companies that first developed them. No one knows exactly how SpaceX's future will unfold. Markets change, competition grows, new challenges always emerge. But one thing remains clear: the company's commitment to innovation, engineering excellence, and bold execution continues to push the boundaries of what is possible. Perhaps SpaceX's greatest achievement will not be its valuation. It may be the inspiration it gives to the next generation of scientists, engineers, entrepreneurs, and explorers. This story has never been only about wealth. It is about innovation, persistence, calculated risk, and the power of ambitious ideas. Every extraordinary company is built by ordinary people working together over many years. The future of space may not belong to one company alone, but companies like SpaceX are helping shape humanity's next chapter. The next giant leap may begin with a single launch, a single breakthrough, or a single idea. Thanks for watching.